Our YouTube are back, of course, to talk about some of Final Fantasy VII. We are here with more or less like a follow-up to our last video where we talked about the Barret is dead theory. A good chunk of that video was us talking about Marlene, because that's kind of what the theory is based on at the end of the game, where she senses her dad, and that kind of connecting to the original game where she sensed Aerith, who was, of course, dead at the time. One of the topics of conversation from that video, though, was how does Marlene have this gift, this ability, this power, whatever it might be. One of the popular theories that's been out there for quite a long time in terms of FF7 theory crafting, I guess, whatever, is that maybe Marlene is like Cetra, part ancient, part Cetra, whatever. I do think that idea still holds a little bit of weight, only because it'd be kind of impossible for them to know if there is any other ancients out there, any other Cetras. Maybe Aerith could know just because of her connection to the planet. Maybe she could sense that or some shit. Maybe she can know if she's the last one. But in terms of Shinra, they just think that Aerith is the last Cetra, right? So, and maybe we don't know shit about obviously Marlene's parents, right? We don't know shit about Dyne barely other than his history with Barret's. And we don't know shit about Marlene's mom, like Eleanor. So maybe she was part Cetra, etc., etc. Anyway, something hit me right when I got done making our last video and I was uploading it and kind of doing the thumbnail and listening back to the video. Maybe it's possible that Marlene got her gift from Aerith, and this could actually work a little bit with the original FF7, but specifically with Remake, of course. I think it makes a lot of sense given what we see with the Red 13 in Remake, where obviously when we first meet him, he's kind of aggressive. Aerith touches his head, calms him down, and then after that, he just kind of knows everything, it seems like. He knows what's going on with the planet and the Whispers, Whisper Harbinger, and even at the end of the game, whenever we're seeing the visions, he knows that they are specifically visions of the future.
What the hell did I just see?
A glimpse of tomorrow if we fail here today.
And we get a somewhat similar scene with Aerith and Marlene earlier in the game. Now, the difference here, obviously, is that Marlene's scared as opposed to being aggressive. And I guess it's technically possible the Red 13 could be aggressive because he's scared. But anyways, Marlene's obviously distraught. And Aerith hugs her and shows her something, or whatever the hell happens. We don't entirely know right now. But it calms her down. It kind of scares Marlene a little bit, but it does indeed calm her down, similar to Red 13 later in the game. Now, with this scene initially, I never really knew what to think, whether or not Aerith was doing it intentionally or just a side effect of her power type thing or whatever, but her throwing the finger up to, it's our little secret or whatever the hell, to me seems to be she did it on purpose, right? Intentionally to calm down Marlene. There's been debates online for the last couple of years on what exactly happens there, as in, is Aerith showing Marlene something or just doing magic to keep her calm or something along those lines, right? We don't exactly know. Now, some people do think it's showing her something to calm her down. But I don't know if we're ever going to have an answer for that. I definitely don't think we have that right now or haven't had that for the last couple of years. I don't know if we're ever going to get an answer for what happens in that scene specifically. Unless we cut away to Marlene and she's thinking about that moment or reminiscing on that moment, or she tells somebody about it at some point. I don't know if we're ever going to have an answer for what exactly took place there. Kind of the point of the video here is that because of that scene, I think it's entirely possible that Marlene got some sort of a power or gift. Kind of similar to Red 13, I don't think he gains any magical powers from the Aerith segment, but he obviously gains a massive amount of knowledge. He knows kind of everything that's going on, right? He gives us a lot of exposition, kind of actually factually more than what Aerith gives us throughout the game, right? He tells us exactly what's going on with the Whispers and all that other shit. So I think it's possible that kind of a similar thing happened with Marlene, but maybe intentionally or not, she got powers from Aerith where she can sense the live stream, essentially, sense the planet. Part of me does think that it's possible that Aerith did it intentionally, especially with the Aerith that we have in Remake that seems to know the future, right? And she wants to be altering destiny at the end of the game, right? And in some ways, that might be her wanting to try to change her fate if she knows the future. Who wouldn't want to save themselves if they know that they're going to die in the future, they're supposed to die? Sephiroth is going to kill them. So she might be wanting to alter that fate, but maybe as kind of a backup plan, so to speak, she passes her gift on, or part of her gift on, to Marlene. In case she does die, you still have kind of a Cetra, kind of an ancient on the planet still. But I do think it's also possible that it's just an accidental thing, maybe just a side effect of whatever she did to Marlene to calm her down might have gave Marlene some sort of connection to the planet, right? It might not be something that was intentionally done by Aerith. But the point of all this is that I think it's as of right now in my headcanon, after thinking about this a little bit, I think it's kind of the best way to explain why Marlene has this gift, because we've never had an explanation. And I think it makes more sense than her being a Cetra or being a descendant of the Cetra or something like that. Just her getting a little bit of gift or a little bit of power from Aerith. I think it makes the most sense just because we see that Red 13, right? We don't know that he has a direct connection to the planet, but that might be how he knows what he knows, right? We don't have an explanation of how he knows what he knows based on what Aerith did, right? And maybe he has a connection to the planet now too, and so does Marlene. It also still does work with the original game's continuity, only because we know that a similar thing happens where Aerith goes and saves Marlene and takes her to Elmira, right? And on that journey from Sector 7 slums to the Sector 5 slums, maybe she picked up a gift, whether intentional or not, from Aerith. Obviously, they don't explain that in the original game, or they've never explained at all how Marlene has this gift. Maybe that's what Remake's trying to do. And if we are following the original game's continuity with the compilation for FF7, when it came to having children, Marlene took on a very Aerith look, a very Aerith design, right? Which has got to be intentional by the devs. Braided hair, ribbon in the hair. And maybe that's why. Maybe even though it's never explained to us with the original game's continuity, maybe Remake's going to explain that to us, that maybe she got this gift from Aerith. And I hope when it comes to the Remake project, they do explain this, because like I can't stand that it's been like 26 years and we don't know what's going on with Marlene. It's just so weird to have that. Like, can't you explain why Marlene's doing what she's doing? Like, you have to explain to me why she can sense Aerith at the end of the game in the original FF7 and why she's sensing her dad at the end of Remake. For whatever reason, whether he's dead or alive doesn't matter. Like, why can she sense him? And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe Aerith is the reason. I tried to look this up too before recording to see if anybody else has talked about this or thought about this. Obviously, FF7 itself is 26 years old at this point. But also, like, Remake itself is like 3.5 or so, close to that, like years old, going on 4 years old. Just, I couldn't find anything though. Just like kind of quickly looking online, just like, did Aerith give Marlene powers or something along those lines? Just couldn't find anything. It's more so about like, what did Aerith like show Marlene with like the 7th Heaven scene? So as far as I can tell, it's not necessarily been discussed, or at least not widely. Pretty much the video. It's not a super complicated discussion here. And as usual with my videos, it's probably longer than it needs to be for this said discussion. But I think for now, this is kind of the best explanation because we don't have one. And until the devs give us that, maybe in Rebirth or the third game or whatever the fuck, if they ever give it to us. Especially since we see it like twice in Remake, right? Where she comes into like contact with somebody or something, I guess, creature, I guess is what Red 13 would be called, animal, whatever. Like touches them and specifically does some sort of magic. You see that on screen. You see this on-screen effect of that. And that person seems to gain some sort of level of knowledge. And maybe that knowledge is a connection to the planet, which is why she can sense her dad at the end of Remake. Maybe even in the original game, that's why she could sense Aerith. And maybe that's why Red 13 has the knowledge that he does. Is her, maybe she gave him like some fucking Cetra power where he can know what's going on. And inside the planet live stream and the fucking whispers and the Harbinger and all that other shit. But of course, I want to pass off to you guys. What are your thoughts on this? Again, it was just sort of like a random idea I had while I was wrapping up our last video. I was just sitting there thinking about like Aerith and Marlene, and then like the only other moment in the game that resembles this is Red 13, and he gains a vast amount of knowledge. So I think it's a good way to explain it, but what are your thoughts? Other than if you did agree, disagree, what are your thoughts on Marlene? What do you think's happening with her? What do you think she has this power? Where does she obtain this power? Was she born with it? Or was it gifted to her? Anyways, that's the video. Subscribe to if you guys are new. Social media in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @YT. That's it. Bye. That was weird.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain, or leave it like Cobain.